All right, my friends, welcome to another video lesson. In the next few lessons, we're going to be discussing different applications of color correction. That is making the picture that you have appear properly on screen. Now, I want to take a second here to talk about the difference between color correction and color grading. A lot of people get those two confused. Correction is actually fixing things that may be wrong with the image: overexposure, underexposure, oversaturation, improper white balance. Things of that nature that usually happened in camera and need to be corrected. Color grading is more about achieving what's called a look and communicating feeling, emotion, and other information using color as the vehicle to do so. So what we're going to be focusing on here is color correction. And in this first video, we're going to be talking about camera matching. Now, if you look at my timeline here, I've got an in and an out, and they're set on our two different cameras, our wide shot here, and then also our close-up. And if I dart back and forth using the Shift-I and Shift-O commands to jump between the in and out points, you can see the cameras look quite a bit different. The wide shot is much brighter than the close-up is here. The close-up also has a bit more color in it. It's more saturated. So when we're talking about the overall brightness of the image, we're going to use the term exposure. And when we're talking about the overall amount of color in an image, we're going to use the term saturation. So in order to bring these two cameras closer in appearance, we're going to use a couple of different tools here. First of all, we're going to enter the color workspace. So I'm going to go up here and click on color. I'll go to Window, Workspaces, and then down to color. Either way works. And you can see when I do that, the workspace changes considerably, and I've got the Lumetri color panel here on the right, and then I've also got the Lumetri scopes here. Now, if they don't pop up for you to begin with, what you're going to do is go to Window and then Lumetri scopes down here. Click on that, and they'll open up here. And you want to make sure that you get the proper scope to be using here. So we're going to go down to the wrench and make sure that waveform is selected. And under waveform type, you want to use Luma. And that'll get you this scope here, which measures the overall brightness of the image. It doesn't really care about color. It's more focused on the exposure of the image itself. So that's what we're going to concentrate on here first. So if I go back to my timeline here and dart back and forth between my cameras, you can really see the difference in how the scope reacts to them. So all of this is a measurement of brightness. And if you look really closely at this, you can actually kind of read it. The darker areas of the image are here towards the bottom. Our subject's jacket, the dark part of his shirt, his hair as well. And then the lighter parts of the image are raised up. So we've got these arms coming down, which are actually the lighter parts of the garage door here. And then you can see where this darker metal cross member is. There's a dip in the scope here. On the other side, you've got the same thing going on right here. This arm is also the brighter part of the garage door here. And then here in the middle, we've got the lighter part of our subject, his face. That's what's darting up here in the middle. And then these tiny little lines here are the lighter parts of his jacket, the lining on the zipper and the pull strings on his hood. So this may look kind of strange at first, but it's actually readable information. So the next thing I'd like to do is actually enter what's called comparison view. Along the bottom of the program monitor here, you've got a bunch of little shortcut buttons. And one of them is comparison view. If you don't see that there, hit the plus button here and choose comparison view off the list and drag it down to where it should be. Hit OK, and you'll have that button available to you. So if I click on that, I get two images here. The image where my playhead is parked, and then also the ability to move to a different part of the timeline so I can compare it. So I'm going to move my playhead to darker image here, and you can see the lighter one is right before this one. There we go, right there. So you can see because the screen is split here, the scope is split as well. And you can see the difference in exposure level between the two cameras. The one on the left is this image on the left, quite a bit brighter overall than the one on the right is. Now, what's too bright? What's too dark? Generally, when you're talking about people on camera, you want the exposure of their face to be around 80 or so. You can see there's a scale here on the left, and our subject's face is right around that 80 mark. So that's actually pretty good exposure. But the one on the right's a little bit low, in the 65 to 70 range, so we want to raise that a little bit. Now, you want to make sure when you're doing color work that you have the proper clip selected. And you can see down here in the timeline, I'll zoom in a little bit, that I've got our close-up shot selected here. And I'm going to head over to my Lumetri color panel here and make sure that I have the basic correction tab open here. You can see there's a number of tabs: basic correction, creative curves, color wheels and match, HSL, secondary, and vignette. We're going to be mainly concentrating on basic correction in this lesson. So if I want to raise the exposure, I'm going to go to the exposure control here. And that's going to raise my overall brightness. So I'm going to bring that slider up, and you have to be very careful. This is very sensitive. I can easily just overexpose the image here. So I want to balance it closer to the image on the left. And you can see I've pretty much achieved a pretty close balance on the scope here. I think I might go up just one more. You can also type values in here. There we go. So they're already closer. Now the next thing I want to do is raise up the dark parts of the image. You can see that the jacket here is much deeper black than it is here. And we're actually losing some of the detail in it. And if you look here on the scopes, you can see that the darker parts of the image are raised just a little bit off the 0 line here, whereas the right image, they're kind of smashed down onto it. So I'm going to raise the blacks here just a little bit. That's a little too much. I think I'm going to go for, let's type in 2 here. That looks better. And we've got a little more detail in the shirt and the jacket here. A little closer match to what's going on the left. And then I'm also going to bring up my shadows, which are not the deep blacks, but the darker parts of the image that aren't quite totally black. So I'm going to bring these up just a little bit here. And you can see it doesn't raise the bottom part of the scope, it raises the lower parts. So I'm going to go for somewhere around 19 or so here. Might look good. Yeah, that looks better. So you can see we've already achieved a much closer match between the two images here. So now I think what I'm going to do is reverse things. I'm going to move my playhead to the other image, and then I'm going to switch the comparison shot to the close-up. So I want to make sure I have my wide shot selected here, and you can see by default Premiere decided to select the disabled close-up shot on top here. So I'm going to make sure I have my active wide shot selected so that when I make some adjustments, I'll actually see something happen over here. Okay, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is drop the highlights a little bit because this still looks a little bit brighter in general than this one does. The scopes look pretty good, but you can see that our subject's face is about even, but the other parts are still a little bit off. Our wide shot's a little bit brighter on those kind of highlighted areas that aren't the super bright parts. So I'm going to take the highlights control and drop that down slightly here. And you can see that actually kind of helps to bring that part of the scope down. Not so much everything in general, but the highlights, yeah, they're looking a lot closer now. That's great. Now I'm going to raise the saturation a little bit because there's just generally more color in this image than there is in this one. So I'm going to raise this up. You have to be careful with this because you don't want to go too far with it and end up with an oversaturated image. So I'm going to head up to about, I think, 130 or so here. And you can see the garage door looks a lot closer. The skin tone looks a lot closer. Although I think that this is a little bit too orange. So I'm going to bring my temperature slider here over to the blue side of things. This is the cooler side and this is the warmer side. That's why they refer to this as temperature. Cooler side is more blue, warmer side is more kind of earth tony and orange. So if I drag it over to the right, you can see things get really orange. If I drag it over to the left really far, we're getting into sort of ice world here. So I'm going to bring this down to, I don't know, around 10 or so, something like that, 10, 11. And we're looking pretty good here. Now, if I turn off the Lumetri effect here, just by hitting this bypass switch here that says FX, you can see what I've done to the image. Look at the difference. This is before and after. You can see the scope move with the effect applied and the change in the overall color and exposure of the image, as well as a slight color temperature change. So this looks a lot closer than it did. Much, much better. So this is matching cameras using basic color correction in the Lumetri color panel. So now that I've done this to 2 of my shots, well, what am I going to do to apply it to all the other usages of these cameras? Well, as you have seen in another video lesson, we can use copy and paste attributes to take care of this. So I'm going to remove my in and out here with Option X, and I'm just going to click on the shot that I've corrected here and right click and choose copy. And then I'm going to select the other ones in the timeline. I'm just going to click on the first one here. And then I don't want to correct this one again, so I'll leave it alone. And I'm going to hold down Shift, click, and drag to lasso the rest of these that I need. And then right click and choose Paste Attributes. And make sure that I only have Effects and Lumetri Color selected, not Motion, Opacity, or Time Remapping. And then click OK. And automatically, you can see now, the effects indicators have all changed green. Every one of those shots now has that color effect applied to it. So I want to do the same thing with my wide shot here. Let me get out of comparison view here real quick. And I'm going to, again, right click, choose copy, and then click here and hold Shift and click on that one. And then hold down Shift, click and lasso these, and then lasso the rest. Same way. Right click, choose Paste Attributes. Make sure the proper selections are made here. Hit OK. And now I've done the color work on all of the other camera clips I'm using in the timeline. So there you have it, my friends. Camera matching using the Lumetri color panel, working in the color workspace, and utilizing the Waveform Luma Lumetri scope. And that about does it for this video lesson, my friends. I'll see you again in the next one.